I think that the global economy is going through the cyclical recovery phase, and the rising bond yield very much is a reflection of that, of this growth optimism. And I think that fundamentally that's a positive thing, right? If you think about rising bond yield or stronger growth or even a little bit more inflation at this point in a cycle, these are healthy signs. And a lot of the optimism this year, I think, will be realized in Asia. If you think about where we are with cyclical growth, the spillover from US fiscal policy will be quite meaningful for Asian exporters. We also have some commodity exporters here in Asia. They also feel the positive lift of the commodity pickup. And on top of that, I think if you look at the fundamentals, things have gone a little better over the last 6 months or so, with current account deficit narrowing across the board. So the growth impulse is really strong in Asia. A lot of that growth optimism globally will come from Asia. So I think that if you think about what's the underlying driver of the yield curve steepening this time around, I think at this point in time, it's still not a threat. But over time, I think this growth optimism is actually a tailwind for Asian markets.
Okay, so you believe that they're rising for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. But what I find absolutely curious, Julia, is the fact that the US dollar is currently sitting around a 6-week low. Why is the US dollar not trading better on this rising long-term yield? And if indeed the US dollar does continue to stay on the back foot, and while everything else reflates, what does that mean for Asian investors?
I think exactly you hit the right point here. And dollar is typically a counter-cyclical currency, so it is behaving as very much like how we would expect it to behave when global reflation is a center point for markets, when global growth expectations are still picking up. And as I said, a lot of the growth optimism is coming from outside of the US, particularly Asia, emerging as a growth driver, both in a cyclical sense and also over time in a secular sense. So I think that that's why you're seeing, for example, a lot of Asian currencies, including the CNH, being quite resilient against the dollar so far, and we expect that to continue to play out. But of course, that's growth optimism, that growth momentum will be quite different across regions. So there will be some regions for now that are going to be lagging behind the dollar. So for example, euro at this point is lagging behind because the pace of the recovery is a little bit slower so far. So that is what's going to be driving some of that differentiation of how currencies behave vis-a-vis the dollar. But broadly, as long as the yield curve steepening is driven by growth optimism, we think that the dollar will be flat to neutral versus Asian currencies.